Good afternoon, folks. We're going to get started. I'm Chris Cooney, Metro South Chamber of Commerce. I want to welcome you all here to our December Good Day Metro South. We're going to, if I can just get everyone's attention, we're going to get the program up. So good afternoon. Welcome to the Fuller Craft Museum. It's a true gem here in the city and a culture-rich creative space for the entire region. Let's have a round of applause for our friends and our guests. We're thrilled to be here today, surrounded by creativity, by craftsmanship, and if I'm reading the room correctly, more red, green, and holiday spirit than is anywhere else today in the city. So, round of applause to all you. If you're in red or green or a holiday, can you stand up? Come on, stand. Richard, I see your vest. Stand up. I know you can stand up. Right. Look at this. Look at this. A lot of green, a lot of red. Nelson, tie. Richard, yeah, round of applause. Heat Miser's here in the audience.
Guys is here. I like that, yeah.
Thanks, Doc G. So we also want to have a round of applause for our chef, Michael Kane, and his crew who are creating today.
Yay! Okay.
For all our members and partners, organizations that are here today. Quick fun fact about Fuller Craft Museum. It's one of only 8 contemporary craft museums in the United States. There's one in Washington, D.C. But that's a little far away on a day like today, right? So we're very fortunate to be here. We're going to hear a little bit more about this room and how it's going to become available for rental and for organizations like ours. And we're so pleased that they had the space available and they could host us today. So again, another round of applause for Fuller Craft Museum. I don't know on the sound if we Paul can adjust that. All right. Try again. All right. Is that better? A little bit better? Okay. Thank you. All right. I'll see. Let me hold the microphone. Okay. So before we get started, you might have noticed that the Chancellor is not here. He had a family emergency. The Chancellor of UMass Amherst. Out of the country. So he actually contacted me on Sunday night and said, I am really sorry that this is not going to work out, but I do commit to coming back in the 2026 to address the Chamber and also to talk about the long-standing relationship between the University of Massachusetts Amherst and Brockton. You're going to hear a little bit more about that soon. I know John Murray is here from the Career Center. John, he's with UMass Amherst, and they run the Career Center. Thank you. We're also really delighted to have Dr. Mark Melnick here, who runs a 20-person research division at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst. And we've had him before, and we're delighted he's going to be here. And that he's here, and he's going to be talking to us about the economy in the coming year. Let's see. We're also delighted to have with us Jack Farron from Cambridge Savings Bank. Jack is our primary sponsor today, and he was chair of the chamber up in the Burlington, Woburn area for many, many years. So he gets chambers, he understands chambers, and it's a delight to be able to hear him. Thank you for sponsoring today, Cambridge Savings Bank. And a little later in the program, we're going to hear from Rob Peters. Rob Peters was the author of the Small Business CEO Playbook. He actually spoke with us earlier in the year, and he's going to help us in some seasonal networking. And then, of course, we have Santa Claus himself. Santa, thank you for being here. You're the busiest guy in the room today. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule. Steve Damon is also a phenomenal long-term Jack Conway real estate agent, and you know how many people are trying to close and get into their house before the holidays. So Santa, thank you. Steve, thank you. And thanks for being here. Finally, it's my pleasure to introduce our MC today, the President and CEO of Evans Machine Company. He's also the Chamber Board Chair and a man who once described manufacturing as the art of making metal behave. And I think that's a fantastic way to look at things, especially in your industry, and especially being here at a craft museum, because I'm sure there's quite a few artists who would agree with that. Dan?
Thank you, Chris, and good afternoon to everyone. It's always great to be here with the Chamber, and as your MC and board chair, it's my job to keep us on schedule. We're a little behind schedule already, but keep things upbeat, and most importantly, keep Steve Damon, aka Santa, protected from being shaken down from the rest of you to see who's on the naughty and nice list. But before we begin, I'd like to thank our fantastic Chamber ambassadors in attendance today. You all know who you are, and for those who don't, please raise your hands. Thank you. You know, they're the folks that somehow they greet the people, they answer the questions, they hand out the materials, they make the introductions, and they do it all while smiling. So we appreciate you. I'd also like to recognize the Chamber Board members in attendance, Maria Celli and Mike Lambert. Thank you for your leadership and partnership all year long. Thank you again. And of course, a warm welcome to our elected and selected leaders joining us, including the current mayor, or supposed I don't see him. Is it? Well, as if he was here, our current mayor, Bob Sullivan. A brand new mayor-elect, Moises Rodriguez. State Representative Dennis Gallagher. Brockton City Councilor Shirley Azak. Brockton City Councilor-elect Jeff Chanel. Southeastern Regional School Committee member Tony Branch. Thank you all for spending part of your holiday season with us and for the work that you do for our city and our region. Now today's program includes some terrific segments, so let's get things rolling. It's my pleasure to introduce our interviewer for the afternoon, Chamber Board member Maria Celli, CEO of the Brockton Neighborhood Health Center. Maria. Maria will begin with a conversation with our first guest, Jack Ferrin, Vice President and Senior Small Business Relationship Manager at Cambridge Savings Bank, who is also our general sponsor for today. Cambridge Savings Bank was founded in 1934 and one of the oldest and largest community banks in Massachusetts, with over $6 billion in assets and nearly 500 employees. Jack, thank you for being here. We've lost Jack.
Why don't we do Jen first?
To who?
Jen.
Okay, we can do that. Jen, are you ready? Oh, here's Jack. Just missed your terrific introduction. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Maria, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And I think I'm going to use this microphone. And you can all let me know if you can hear me. All good? All right, excellent. I'm going to keep my eye on the back of the room to make sure. All right. Okay.
Move the mic closer to the mic.
Just going to go like this.
Come forward.
Forward. We have music, I would turn this into a dance, and it would be a little bit more entertaining. I'll keep coming forward. All right. You comfortable now? Can you still hear me in the back? Yes. Thank you. All right, wonderful. Well, thank you while we make our adjustments. Dan, thank you so much for our introduction. I know it took us a moment to settle in. It's a pleasure to be here today in such a beautiful museum and gallery space. And I do hope that in this season of gratitude, I know we're all rushing around and probably pretty stressed out, but I do think it's really important to practice gratitude. And I know that when I was walking in this morning, yes, you know, it was moving to see the space and remember that this space is here. So I encourage all of us to take a moment to look around either in this moment and look at this incredible community of people in the room. Thank you, Chris, for pulling it together. And then also in the museum to see what this space has available to us. So yes, let us begin. Jack, it's good of you to support programs like this in the community. Can you talk about why Cambridge Savings Bank is so committed to local communities outside of Cambridge, like what we see today?
So we're a community bank and we invest in our communities. And we had talked about this earlier. Let's think about this, right? 2/3 of the country is made up of small business. And that's what the chambers do. We embrace our local businesses, right? We're a community bank. We work with the community, we embrace the community. 6% of our annual revenue we give back to the communities that we serve. Last year we did 4,600 hours of volunteer service. I told you earlier about all the organizations that I belong to. I'm happy to say, as president of the Scholarship Foundation in the town of Burlington, I just hit the $13 million mark in scholarships. Just so you know, thank you. And that's through the hard work and the hard efforts of the former treasurer for the town of Burlington who started this organization in 1988, and all of our accounts naturally with Cambridge Savings Bank. And what we learned from all of this is that not every boy or girl goes on to college, they go to trade schools. So we pay for the apprentice programs, we pay for the dues, and we pay for the uniforms and the tools and things like that. And that all ties into Cambridge Savings Bank because they have been a class sponsor for years, Adopt a Class. Every class, grades K through 12, has a corporate sponsor in the town. And we go back to the chamber and we ask the chamber, can you embrace this class for the next 13 years and partner with us? Because we know that when you're a community bank like us, you're a mutual bank, right? The depositors own the bank, right? They help make the decisions. Those depositors live in the communities. Those depositors make up the small businesses. So that's why when you asked me the question earlier at the table, well, why Cambridge Savings Bank? Well, I joined it back 35 years ago when I was a small business owner working with Exxon, Pepsi, and Dunkin'. And I knew that a community bank would be there because they embrace the community, and you small businesses, Mr. Mayor, and you know this very well, Mr. Mayor-elect, they pay real estate taxes that helps me on my residential rate lower. So why not embrace the community, right? That helps everybody collectively.
Thank you so much for that, Jack. You mentioned some of the ways that Cambridge Savings Bank has supported small business customers. I wonder if there are any others that you can think of examples of how CSB can support small business customers.
One of the ways in which, and I take pride in this as a small business relationship manager, and I also do government banking, I work with cities and towns, is we team up, okay? We collaborate with the small business owner and their staff, especially in today's fraud environment, right? The environment today of fraud it's just absolutely ludicrous, right? So we have educational programs where we train our customers and their staff with online banking. We help them with fraud mitigation. We help them get started. We're an SBA partner. We help them, especially with startups, we help them begin their program. We help them grow collectively and organically, right? So, and we train them and we mentor them together. One of the models that I like to use as a small business relationship manager is I bring the owner and a representative of the company with me to one of the branches that's closest to their place of operation and bring them in and meet the staff. Because there's nothing better than that personal touch. And we do answer the phone. I give out my personal cell phone. I get calls nights, weekends. I can remember being in Disney World and my wife said, "Hey, we're ready for the ride. Hold on, I have a customer on the line." But anyway, long story to be short, it's very important, especially in today's business environment where the success of businesses is related to how the economy is. And you're only as good as who you partner with. And that's why when we partner, I bring in a staff and a team, we work collectively. You know, and I've had this saying, my daughter just got married this weekend and she still says it. We started when she was a little baby and could start talking. We call it Team Ferrin, and that's what I do with my customers. My customers belong to Team Ferrin. We work together as a group. If you're in Cambridge, you're in Burlington, you're in Watertown, you're in Charlestown, you're in Dorchester, you're going to meet the staff, you're going to know them one-on-one, they're going to answer the phone, and we do have for online banking, like all of you other people out here that work with other banks, we offer 24-hour service and 24-hour support. It's very important to embrace. It's the same concept that you have with the chamber, right? It's that same mentality. You embrace the local business, you work together, you grow together. You might fumble, but you know what? You keep on keeping on.
Keep on keeping on. And to join Team Ferrin, the phone number is... Just joking, Jack. I don't have that number yet. All right. Why is it important, Jack, for Cambridge Savings Bank to remind customers and the general public, like us in this room, to shop local during the holiday season?
Well, your local businesses make up your communities, and they can't thrive without the local support. I'll give you an example. Just raise your hands. Anyone heard of Bryan Sports that began in Harvard Square 5 generations ago? One of them was a customer of mine in downtown Concord. They're down to one retail outlet in Concord Center, and they have an online program where you can buy things online, and then they also have another company that does all of the team apparel and uniforms. They're now working on 6th generation. They rely on that shop on Saturday every single year. That's their biggest retail day. They rely on the local sports groups to come in and purchase sporting good equipment. I'm using them as an example only because my relationship with them, one of the 4th generation was a dear friend of mine who passed 10 years ago. I'm thinking of this the other day. They're on the 6th generation. And think of that in your communities. Some of these generational companies, they wouldn't exist if it weren't for local businesses driving traffic, driving trial, and driving sales to their stores. We have to embrace the locals. And it's not just during the holiday season, it's year-round. And they make up our communities. I said this earlier, 2/3 of the country is made up of small business. We need to embrace that. Because without that, the communities don't grow, they don't flourish. And when I look at this family in their 6th generation, that's just a great example of how your local people can embrace the local businesses, and we can all grow together.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jack. And as a token of appreciation from the chamber, just this lovely gift.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you. Happy New Year.
Now it is my honor to introduce the leader behind this extraordinary venue, Jennifer Chanowski, CEO of TheBrocktonChannels.
All right, Jennifer, welcome. Let's just dive in. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, I am new to Massachusetts. I am originally from Chicago, and I started my museum career actually at the Museum of Contemporary Photography in Chicago, and I've moved everywhere. I ran an art gallery in Los Angeles. I worked at a history museum in Georgia, and then I just recently came from the Academy Art Museum in Easton, Maryland. So, yes, but thank you for welcoming me. I've only been here for 5 months, and I will say that I'm really loving Massachusetts, and I live in Southeastern, and so I feel very much a part of the community.
That's great. Thank you so much, Jennifer. So tell us a little bit about what's new with the museum.
Well, we have new things going on every single day, and actually this weekend we're jam-packed with activities. So if you walked in on Saturday, you'll come to our snacking shop. We feature a local vendor, and this week is Breeze Fruits. She's Brockton local, and she's going to be selling her lovely little charcuterie cups in our lounge. And at the same time, you can snack and go upstairs and shop our wonderful gift shop that I hope everybody stops in before they leave. And then also that day, we have a member maker event. So if you're a member of the museum, you get to craft handmade ornaments. And then Sunday, we have yoga. We teach yoga once a month in this great room. That's what we call this room, actually. It's not just a great room, but it's our great room. And a portfolio day for aspiring artists for teenagers. So if you have a teenager who's thinking about going to art school, we have an event just for that. So we have colleges from around Massachusetts, also Rhode Island. You can come here, talk to someone who's in admissions, show your portfolio, and get feedback so that way you can apply to art school. And then we end our day with a mini maker event. So if you have little ones, you can make a flower collage with our Director of Learning and Engagement. So that's kind of a typical weekend at Fuller Craft. And I also want to note that all of those programs are free. We don't charge a single cent. So please come this weekend and enjoy those activities.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. My brain is already like, bing, 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 gotta follow up with her on this. And for a program at Brockton Neighborhood, and then also as a mother myself, I'm like, oh, look at this, all these different events. Because my kids don't keep me busy enough. Okay, Jennifer. So I think we heard a little bit about this, but could you tell us more about this great room and how it will be available for groups in the future?
So this is a wonderful partnership, by the way, and I want to thank you, Chris, for being a part of this in Metro South. And this is what this room was made for. It was made for events of this nature, and we love to do everything in here. So yoga, you can think of, we've had birthday parties, weddings, bar mitzvahs, you name it, it can go in this room. And so actually, if you have any questions, you can speak to Sharifa Mapp, who is sitting at our table. She is our events and program manager. And Sharifa can answer any questions you might have. But we rent out this room, we rent out the lounge, and in the summertime, what is the best spot in Brockton to use our courtyard? So we've had weddings out there, and it's gorgeous. And we are so thrilled we get to have Porter Pond and DW Field Park right across the street from us. It makes this museum special. So yes, if you're interested in rentals, we do them all year round. But please talk to Sharifa or talk to myself, and we'd be happy to assist you.
Thank you so much. To both of you, tell us what's happening with the holiday craft market, because that sounds exciting.
So yeah, so normally our museum shop is actually just kind of right when you walk in, but every holiday season we expand it all the way on that upper level. And that's, all of the things you find in there are handmade goods. A lot of them are local from around this area of Brockton. So when you're buying something from the shop, you're not only supporting Fuller Craft, but you're supporting local makers. And we're really proud that we can showcase those items here in our shop. So this shop will be open through, I believe, January 4th. So come in, buy something for a loved one, buy something for a friend. And if you can't think of something up there that you want to buy, you can always buy a membership to Fuller Craft. It gets you 10% off at our museum shop as well. And it also gives you discounts on all of our studio classes and some of our programs that do require admission.
Wonderful. So you've mentioned a lot of things so far. So how can we learn more? Is there a place we can go to see, you know, the schedule of events and all of these different hours of operations, all of the logistics and the wonderful things that are happening here?
Of course, you can visit our website, which is fullercraft.org, and we have our hours, our upcoming studio classes, any of our free programs. If you join our mailing list, you'll get an email right into your inbox every 2 weeks that tells you about our current programming. And of course, we're open Tuesday through Sunday, 10 to 5, so it's very reliable. We're only closed on Mondays, and admission is free. In 2017, I believe, we first had free admission for Brockton residents, but we've expanded it to everyone. So anytime you come in, it is free. We do ask if you can give us a donation, because obviously every penny helps to keep this beautiful museum running. But you can come in for free if you can't even do the donation. We just want you to come and enjoy yourself and make this your second home.
Thank you so much. Jennifer, might we, or guests who are here today, might be able to tour the museum even after this luncheon if we want to take a quick look?
Of course. I will never, at any time you'd like to come in, it's free. So once again, we have a number of exhibitions that are open, including 3 and almost 4, because I don't think it's open yet, but 3 permanent collection exhibitions. And those are incredibly important because our collections continue to grow. And as they do, we are able to put on these amazing exhibitions showcasing the things that we've collected. So please go visit that. We also have The Clown in Me Loves You, which will be up until next year. Very beautiful glasswork by Nancy Callan and Catherine Gray. And actually, if anybody here loves Netflix and they've seen the show Blown Away, Catherine Gray, she was actually a judge on that exhibition. So you can see some of her work in our very own spaces here. So yes, please tour.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Jennifer. Thank you for everything that you do with your team to strengthen arts and culture in our region. And please accept, as I don't mess this one up, please accept a token of our appreciation.
Well, thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
Thank you, Jennifer. And I must say that I was lucky enough to be in a networking event out in one of the courtyard, and it is beautiful there. It's highly recommended. So thank you. Next, we are honored to welcome Dr. Mark Melnick from the UMass Donahue Institute, UMass Amherst, one of the Commonwealth's leading experts on demographics, economics, and the labor market trends. Dr. Mark Melnick specializes in demographic, socio-economic, and labor market issues and leads a 20-plus person team working on a variety of economic and public policy research projects, such as the Massachusetts Gaming Commission, Boston Foundation, Mass DOT, and Mass Development. In addition, Dr. Melnick serves as the Senior Managing Editor of Mass Benchmarks, the journal of the Massachusetts economy, published by the Institute in cooperation with the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston. He holds a doctorate degree in sociology from Northeastern University. Please join me in welcoming Mark Melnick.
I'm accused often of enjoying the sound of my own voice, but I don't like it through a microphone. So how do you guys hear me okay with that? All right. All right. I have 2 kids, so I'm used to yelling. So Mark Melnick, I'm the Director of Economic and Public Policy Research at the UMass Donahue Institute. I was pleased to be second choice. Who's actually seen me give a talk before? I need to know how many jokes I can recycle. Great. Okay. So my group at the Donahue Institute, Economic and Public Policy Research, we do a wide array of applied social science research for different clients around Massachusetts, including state government, municipal government, regional agencies, and so on. Done a lot of work with the Veterans House Chamber over the years. And so I was really pleased to get this invitation. I get to talk a lot around the state about the things that have been happening in the economy. Mass Benchmarks, which was mentioned before, if you are a nerd, that you'd like it translated a bit, that's what we do. And so go check out that Mass Benchmarks website and subscribe. But a lot of the things that we do from our research and from Mass Benchmarks really informs when I go out and talk about the economy and what we affectionately refer to on our team as the roadshow. So that's a bit of what I'm going to be talking about today. It's always great to be down in Brockton, though. You know, I end up around the state a lot talking about different things in the economy or the different studies that we're doing. But I'm originally from Northeast Ohio in a city called Youngstown. And so being in the different gateway cities in Massachusetts feels very familiar to me, and Brockton is very much like Youngstown, and so it always feels very familiar, very home-like whenever I'm here, and so it's really cool to get to do this again. So first, what I'd like to do is talk a bit about the state economy and what we've been facing over the last year or so. And we just renamed the slide deck to slow growth and challenging headwinds. But first, let me talk about the Dunning Institute real quick. Chris mentioned at the top of the show about the commitment of UMass Amherst to the Brockton area. And I think, you know, related to that is the commitment of the Donahue Institute to the Brockton area. The UMass Donahue Institute is a pretty large organization. The name may be familiar to folks in different ways, but we have 10 business units and 120 employees. And this is our organizational structure, which obviously you don't care about, but what I do want to highlight is two main things that really matter as it relates to Brockton, and that's on the left. It's the research and data services, and that's my group with economic and public policy research. And like I said, we do all these kinds of consulting research with different organizations, really geared towards social mobility and economic development and that kind of stuff. But then the second part of the Institute that really has a significant role in the community is the Career Center, Mass Hire Career Center here at Brockton that John Murray runs. And they've been in town for 25 years and have been supporting people in the community in a variety of ways. So a lot of different things happen at the Donahue Institute, but we have really significant activities that we've been doing in Brockton, the city, as well as the greater region for a long time. So some of the work that we've done in Metro South over the years, and I've been at the Institute for 11 years and worked with Chris at various times over that time period, but has been doing different kinds of regional studies around either as land use for key regional parcels, commercial facility reuse studies. We did a study for folks on the Cristo site, for example, Cristo site infrastructure capacity assessments, economic development strategy, different demographic and labor market studies. And then we've also done stuff with other regional partners. A couple years ago, we did work with Catholic Charities South on social services needs assessment for the city. And we did some work with the workforce board on the construction sector and what's going on there. So a lot of different things we do in there. And then the thing I need to read is what, otherwise everything comes off the top of my head, is with Mass Hire. So they've been around for 25 years, and the center serves thousands of individuals each year seeking training, advancement, or re-entry into the workforce. The Career Center also supports area businesses by posting job openings and providing referrals, connecting employers with employee training grants, safety grants, as well as the state's work share program and tax incentive program. So while there are career centers all around the states playing essential roles within their communities, Mass Hire in Greater Brockton is one of the few in Massachusetts that's directly run through a university. And as you can see here from a handful of data points from the annual report from Mass Hire, there's thousands of folks in the community who are touched annually in different supports as it relates to the labor market. So great work from John and his team, and a great resource for the community. All right, so let me get into the innards of what I talk about. So as a bit of an overview of the mass economy. So what I'd like you to know when this is over, so the mass economy has kind of underperformed the U.S. economy over the last several years, especially when compared to the U.S. in the post-pandemic era. Incomes are very high in Massachusetts, but so is the cost of living. And prosperity is not evenly felt around the state, whether it be demographically or geographically. Indicators generally point to an economy that's experiencing sluggish growth with some really serious affordability issues. I see a few folks snapping pictures. Free to do that. Chris, folks are also welcome. You guys are welcome to share this also. Shifts in federal policy coupled with other structural issues are placing the mass economy in a more precarious position than we've been in a long time. And so the Trump administration in particular, with some of the shifts in priorities, really are a dramatic shift from things that we've seen from the federal government So this first data slide here is what we call mass at a glance, and it's a way that I like to summarize what we're seeing in the economy overall. I'll just walk us through each one. On the first one, mass unemployment rate right now is at 4.8%, which is the 8th highest in the nation. Now, I've been going around giving talks like this about the state economy for a long time. It is rare that I've actually said that we've had one of the highest unemployment rates in the nation. Now, granted, under 5% is still something that economists would have thought of as full employment, and it's actually a pretty low unemployment rate by historical standards, but by recent history, it's high. We actually had an unemployment rate pre-COVID that was right around 3%, and we had different periods during the recovery period where we also were in the threes. So we've seen this gradual increase. The second measure of unemployment we have there is something that's called U6. The U6 unemployment rate are folks who are unemployed plus people who are part-time but would like to work full-time. So you might recall back during the Great Recession, people would talk about jobless recovery. That was because we were seeing the unemployment rate coming down, but U6 was staying persistently high. So we had a lot of part-time job creation during that time period. What we found during this recovery period is that jobs recovered, the traditional unemployment and U6 both were coming down. Mass's unemployment, U6 unemployment rate is about middle of the nation, which speaks a lot to full-time work that we have in our state. Population change, the state's grown about 1.5% over the last 4 years. You guys might recall a couple of years ago there was a bunch of news stories about Massachusetts losing population, a lot of people moving out of Massachusetts. COVID did some really funky things with population trends, where we saw a lot of domestic out-migration, but that's kind of normalized now. In Massachusetts right now, while we're not growing a ton, we've been growing since 2020. Unfortunately, job growth has been quite low, and over the last year, we've seen almost no job growth in Massachusetts, and I'll touch on that in a little bit. And this is why we're seeing this unemployment rate going up, where you have a gradual increase in population, but no increase in jobs, unemployment. Some demographic things that are important about our state. 18.7% of Massachusetts is foreign-born. That makes it a 6th highest in the nation. The economic story of Massachusetts is very much an immigrant story. In fact, since 1990, since 1990, 80% of labor force growth in Massachusetts has been because of foreign-born labor. Immigrants have been important to driving both population gains as well as economic growth in our state. And there's a lot of stereotypes when we think about immigrant labor. Folks working in low-wage sectors of the economy, maybe in hotels or healthcare or whatever. And that's true, but Massachusetts' foreign-born population is pretty unique in the sense that we also have very well-educated immigrants contributing to the economy as well. In fact, the percentage of immigrants with a graduate degree in Massachusetts is actually higher than the percent of native born with a graduate degree in Massachusetts. And a lot of that has to do with some of the characteristics our state has with elite colleges and universities, life sciences, and so on. 9.7% of Massachusetts lives below the poverty line. That's the 9th lowest in the nation. But the poverty line is a terrible measure of relative economic deprivation because the poverty line is the same no matter where you are. It does not account for cost of living. So that we know that a lot of people live in Massachusetts are living in poverty-like conditions, maybe aren't eligible for federal programs, because of the wages here, but the cost of living is so challenging, especially when we talk about housing. Median age for Massachusetts is around 40, we're one of the older states in the country, and 48% of the state has a college degree, which is the highest in the nation. This next graphic here has the per capita income. We're going to have another one of those in a second. This is per capita income for every state in the U.S. And Massachusetts has the highest per capita income in the country. So we are the richest state in the country as well. And so congrats, you live in the richest state in the country. And we go back and forth with Connecticut all the time on this, but we're about 30% above the national average. Now naturally, when I said that you live in the richest state in the country, you said, you thought to yourself, well, why don't I feel that rich? And the reason you don't feel that rich is because we have the 5th most expensive childcare, the 4th most expensive electricity, the 3rd most expensive natural gas, the 5th highest home values, and the 2nd worst traffic. Now, I mentioned that the economic experience in Massachusetts is not evenly felt economically demographically or geographically. And here's one example of that. This graphic here looks at the median household income by race. So it's a slightly different measure than per capita income. It still drives at the same point. The median household income in Massachusetts is $105,000. But when we look at the differences by race, we see stark differences. White households make $113,000. Asian households over $140,000. Black, $74,000. Hispanic, $69,000. And this is about income. This doesn't even talk about wealth. So we'll talk a lot about equity issues when it comes to wealth, home ownership, and these kinds of things. And that's a part of the story too. But this is just about the wages in a household. So huge differences racially in the state. And a lot of this is tied, obviously, to educational attainment in the industries that people participate in. Thinking about Metro South, unemployment rate's a bit higher here, about 5%. The population growth has been a little stronger at 2.3%. What's interesting about the Metro South region is the diversity of different kinds of towns. For example, only 15.4% of Metro South is foreign-born. Does anybody want to guess what the percentage of Brockton is foreign-born? I thought I heard something.
38.
It's 36. 36. So 50 is a guess, but 36% of Brockton is foreign-born. Set in Metro South, 7.7% of Metro South is below the poverty line, but 13% of Brockton is. And then median age of the region, 42. 46% of the region has a college degree, but in the city itself, it's only 20%. So it's one of the reasons why the state has all these programs as we think about gateway cities is that there's big differences. Gateway cities, and Brockton is a classic of this, in fact, where the term gateway city, while it's not technically why they named it this, it infers something about immigration, people coming to a community. In our gateway cities in Massachusetts, a lot of them, especially the post-industrial ones, really had a large immigrant base and continues to this day. Right, so a few things about the economy. I already mentioned the unemployment rate. This compares the Massachusetts unemployment rate to the U.S. And Mass being the red, U.S. being the blue. The main thing I wanted to highlight here is where our economy kind of separated from the U.S. and then where it kind of comes back together. So obviously we're a small part of a bigger thing, so to see the trend line matching isn't that shocking. But we really separate from the U.S. during the Great Recession, right? The industries that were impacted during the Great Recession, construction, manufacturing, retail, they're all things that we have, but they weren't the drivers of our economy to the same extent. So we recovered faster than the U.S. and we had pretty low unemployment for a long time. Then COVID happened, and then I was giving these talks in my house without pants on, and this is where the edge of this ended, right? And it was like this horrifying, the economy's, what is happening? And luckily, shortly thereafter, the economy bounces back quickly. And we actually had pretty dramatic decreases of unemployment in that initial recovery period in 2021 and 2022. And now we sit just a bit above the national. Part of why we look a little different than the U.S. is our makeup of industries. The red is Massachusetts, the blue is the U.S. And what I want to call people's attention to here mainly is where we have strengths. Healthcare and social assistance is our biggest industry in Massachusetts, not terribly stunning. We have a lot of elite teaching hospitals in the state, as well as the other infrastructure that goes into healthcare. We have significant concentration in education, but I also want to call out professional, scientific, and technical services. It's a terribly named industry, but it includes things like high tech, life sciences, and other forms of knowledge-based parts of the economy. It's high wage, and it's been a strength of our state compared to the U.S. for a while. It was actually one of the big reasons why we saw such a quick recovery after COVID, because there was a lot of investment in life sciences in the initial aftermath of COVID. We saw a lot of job growth there. So talking about job growth, this graphic here kind of highlights what we've seen in the slowdown in jobs in Massachusetts since COVID. So COVID happens here in 2020, and what this graphic is showing here in the darker one is the first half of the year, January to June, and the pink here is July to December. And this is the number of jobs in the state. right? The jobs added to the economy. So in 2021, we have a ton of jobs that are added to the economy, right? That's the initial bounce back of the economy. 2022, we see it slowing down, really slows down in 23, and we've had no job growth in 2 years, right? So we can just, this dramatic slowdown. So we have a very quick recovery, and so this is where I keep changing the story of this roadshow, because when we were in this period, say, hey, we're bouncing back fast, and then now we're here, and it's like nothing's happening. And we have a really frozen economy right now, where there's like kind of no fire, no hire kinds of things in the labor market. Massachusetts has really lagged the U.S. in terms of job recovery. We're towards the bottom of the nation here. The U.S. economy is about 1% bigger than it was pre-COVID. And you have several elements of this country where they're quite a bit above where they were pre-COVID. But Massachusetts is here flat with very little job growth. So yeah, and definitely not the side of the graphic you want to be on, right? So one of the things that we do at Mass Benchmarks is that we produce a quarterly index release that compares the Massachusetts economy to the U.S. economy in the most recent quarter to see, how are we growing or contracting in some cases. Massachusetts is the red and the U.S. is the blue. And what we found here is that we look somewhat similar to the U.S., although our growth has been slower. We had this first quarter of 2025 where we had actually decrease in the economy. A recession is technically 2 consecutive quarters of negative economic growth. So the second quarter we had that bounce back, so we did not get that recession. But when we were sitting here in March and April, I fully expected the back half of this year we would have had a recession. The market really bugged out after Trump came into office and talked about the tariffs on Liberation Day back in April, played a lot of tricks on the market, and that's this negative activity you're seeing, right? Then there was a bit of a rollback and how people were talking about tariffs and the economy did a little bit better. We don't anticipate at Benchmarks a recession necessarily in the next year. I think most economists went from earlier in the year assuming we have one in a year to being like, oh, okay, I think things have kind of settled in a bit. But that's kind of where we stand right now with a sluggish growth, but not really recessionary yet. I'm going to touch on a couple policy things that really matter to Massachusetts. The first is investments in research and development. 1 in 10 jobs in Massachusetts are in research and development. Sorry, that's us. Okay. 1 in 10 of the U.S.'s jobs in research and development are in Massachusetts. Compared to nationally, 1 in 40 jobs are in Massachusetts. So we have such a dramatic concentration in research and development that really drives our economy. This year shows the change in growth in research and development over the last decade, with the growth in research and development in Massachusetts doubling that of the U.S. The reason why I raise this is because there have been a lot of threats from the federal government right now about changes to how we're funding NIH, most specifically, and NSF grants. We have been a historic leader in funding in NIH and NSF, and it's been an important part of our economy. As you can see here, per capita, Massachusetts is far and away above other states in terms of how much money we're receiving from different federal sources to fund different kinds of research. We're ahead of California here, and then obviously this cluster of activity with some of these other states. But we've been a leader in federal research funding dollars for a long time. And so threats to that are a significant concern for our economy. Some of you who follow the State House News, this is one of the driving forces behind the DRIVE initiative that the governor's trying to get pushed ahead right now to help backfill research funding dollars that may not come to the state. Granular labor force is an important story. This is my favorite graphic that we do at the Donahue Institute, but it talks about different elements of population change in our state. So the red line here, I'll just walk us through the different parts. The red line here is our births in Massachusetts, right? And over time, we've seen this gradual decline in the state in births. And here on this purple, we have our deaths. And over time, we see the deaths kind of coming closer to our births. This is a function of a couple of things. One is we're an older state. We're a well-educated state. So we have a very well-educated female population with a high labor force participation rate. So when we put all that together, you have smaller families, you you have later family formations that are occurring. And then you also have economic conditions. We saw that births and deaths kind of get closer to each other during COVID, and then kind of spreading apart a little bit now, but we have a very little natural increase is what we refer to it as. With an aging population, we're expecting more of this going forward. There are actually several states in the U.S. that have a negative natural increase right now. Maine, Vermont, and we're pushing towards that. What's interesting is Massachusetts has 14 counties, 7 of which have negative natural change rate, and which are the 4 western counties, and then the ones, the Cape and Islands in Barnstable. So kind of crazy, like to think like we're already seeing some of that occurring right now. Now, but this is part of our positive increase in population. The next element I want to talk about is domestic migration. This is folks who are moving between states in the U.S., right? And one thing that's important, one thing to highlight is that historically Massachusetts has been a net loser on domestic out-migration. People in Massachusetts go live somewhere else. Now, some of this is natural to our state. We have a lot of people who come here for college. So you're going to have a lot of churn among young adults. But what we did see here was this dramatic dramatic increase in the amount of out-migration immediately after COVID. And the Globe had a front page story 2 years ago, right around the same time. And I remember talking to folks in state government saying like, whoa, let's recognize signal and noise here. I think this is going to be noise, but the signal is we're net losers over time. Because if you actually deconstructed this during COVID, there were some really crazy ones. Like the Cape had this wild increase in people that moved to the Cape in 2021. And I remember talking to folks at the Cape Cod Commission, and I was like, they wanted adjustments in population projections. And I was like, guys, I don't think this is good. This is just a blip, right? Same thing like where UMass Amherst is, Hampshire County had this dramatic out-migration in 2020, and this dramatic in-migration in 2021 was all the kids got kicked out from campus, and then they all came back last year, right? So but now we're seeing something that looks a lot more normal in our domestic out-migration story. The thing that counteracts this, and has historically counteracted this, is the immigration, right? So we see this, here goes the international migration from Massachusetts, and we've seen this increase over time, and then it kind of reverses and starts going down a bit right here in this 2017-2018 period. So this is the first Trump administration, changes in federal policy, I think some rhetoric around immigration, and then COVID happens. So we have no immigration for essentially 2 years. And then in 2021, we see this dramatic increase in immigration. And so that's been a big driver of our population gain. Unfortunately, I don't think that this is actually totally accurate. I think it's going to flatten a little bit. The Census Bureau used the Census Bureau last year tried a new method in estimating immigration in the country to respond to the border crisis. And with the border crisis, they said we're going to use some Homeland Security data, and we're going to, how many more immigrants we have, and we're going to distribute them in an estimate based on how many immigrants the states have. So a state like Massachusetts that has a lot of immigrants said, oh, we're going to give you a lot more immigrants because we know there are more in the country. Problem is that border crossing immigrants and Massachusetts immigrants aren't really the same, because we have a lot of folks who come here for college. Some of the concentrated groups that we have in Massachusetts weren't the same folks that were crossing at the border. So I think that when they refine this method, we're going to see this come down a bit. And then obviously the border crisis isn't the same now. So I think that we're going to see some big changes in the way the immigration numbers happen. But this has been an important part of understanding our story. And for the last 2 decades, Massachusetts has consistently had higher international immigration rates in the US. And here we see just how much more immigration we're seeing in our state compared to the US as a percentage. Okay, a couple other things about the state here that I want to highlight. This is what we traditionally refer to as an age pyramid. And so in 2020, about 14% of Massachusetts was 65 or over. One of the things we do at the Donahue Institute is produce population estimates for all the cities and towns in the state. And that's part of our population estimates program. You can find that on our website. And our projections for 2050 for the state turn our age pyramid into a big old rectangle. And where over 20% of the state ends up being 65 or over out by 2050. So a lot of this is just, this age cohort, 30 years up, just sliding down the age scale over time, right? So this has important ramifications economically. So here I'm showing labor force growth in the state over essentially a 60-year period. So from 1990 to 2020, the state's labor force grew 15%. If you were to take this age profile in 2050 and apply current day labor force participation rates by age and gender, you would end up seeing the Massachusetts labor force growing only 6.7%. So this has a headwind in terms of our ability to grow our economy over the next several decades, as well as backfill positions that would have been emptied because of people leaving the labor force. So when we think about, like there's a lot of projections now about home health aid and healthcare and what's going to happen here because of the needs of an aging population. Well, will we have enough labor force to fill it? And we're a state that has very high labor force participation rates. So this is a significant concern. A couple housing trends in the state. Massachusetts has, people talk a lot about having a housing crisis in the state. A couple things I want to highlight here is that about half of the renters in Massachusetts are what we call housing cost burdened. And that is folks spend 30% or more of their income on housing. For owners, 27% of our owners are housing cost burdened. This next graphic just shows how the housing prices have been shifting over the last several years and just the speed of growth. So here we have our greater Boston counties. It's interesting, Suffolk County saw prices go down a little bit in COVID, but have been coming back up again. But the more affluent suburban county of Middlesex has been going crazy. I live in Natick, and I can attest to this, where I live in West Natick, which is a little more affordable, but the number of branches and duplex and school levels that are torn down for this big colonial afterwards, it's striking. Here is a combination of some of your counties, and we do see that higher pitch in housing price gains. And then the western counties, where it's quite not nearly the same amount of gains in housing prices, but interestingly, the mix of industries don't pay as much out here either, so the housing cost burdens are just like the eastern part of the state. One of the big reasons why we have such problems in Massachusetts is that we've underproduced housing forever. Right now, the average amount of permits pulled in the U.S. is about 4.3 per 1,000 residents. We're at only 2 per 1,000 residents, putting us in the bottom 10. If you look at a 50-year timeline on housing production, we have been lagging housing production for decades. So a lot of this has been just undersupply. So a lot of what the state's been focusing on is producing more housing, removing barriers in producing housing, allowing accessory dwelling units, but we just haven't built enough. The problem, of course, is that fixing your housing supply is like turning around a battleship. You're not going to be next year, but oh, we have enough housing now. But this is a really significant problem for our state. And with this, just one quick wrap up here. The state economy has had a mixed performance post-pandemic. The secondary data has proven to be somewhat noisy. The new administration brings several potential policy shifts of concern for the state, most notably around immigration, federal research funding, and trade policy and inflation. Obviously, cost of living has been getting a lot of attention recently. It was a big factor in some of the off-year elections that we just saw. But I think that's really one of the big stories of the economy in the next year. Long term, though, we face significant demographic challenges in our state due to aging. And so from a local policy perspective, making this attractive and competitive and affordable for residents and businesses are going to be really important in the decades ahead. So with that, I will stop, and I'm glad to take any questions. Am I taking questions from the audience, Chris, or anybody else?
Yeah, you have, no, Marie's going to ask any questions.
I have this question for you.
Yeah.
Would allowing taller residential buildings in cities,
Gateway.
Massachusetts is that we have extreme local control when it comes to buildings in your community. So it requires zoning variances and these kinds of things. And I've commented in other settings that we could talk about having a housing problem in Massachusetts, but it's 351 cities and towns that have a housing problem, right? And I've been invited to speak at different housing events in tiny little towns with 10,000 people where they're trying to win hearts and minds about buildings and housing. And it's like, you know, it takes an awful lot of effort to get to that space. So, so the community character, or whatever you want to call about that, is always going to be a factor in like how residents accept. But I think more density, more housing, especially, and I think the MBTA Communities Act, for example, is a great effort in this direction, where it's trying to increase density around transit nodes, which I think is essential.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, go on.
I don't know the degree to which the Institute has looked at how much they need to read the Big Beautiful Bill. Might impact the Massachusetts economy, especially when healthcare is such an important priority.
Yeah. I don't have an analysis of the Big Beautiful Bill, but I, obviously be concerned about a number of elements that I noted already around immigration and around funding on R&D dollars. It's been concerning because it has seemed at different times that some of Trump's policies are taken into account whether state voted for him or not. And so, there are times where, in a longer presentation, I think I probably don't want you guys anyway, but in a longer presentation, I showed that Massachusetts actually gives more back in federal tax dollars than we receive from the nation. So it's this interesting thing where it's like, hey, we're taking federal research dollars from Elizabeth Warren's state, like, boo-hoo, right? But conversely, we generate so much income in our state because we're high wage, because we're high value activity. So it's one of the things I like to highlight about Massachusetts is that, investment here has benefits around the country for a number of reasons.
As a token of the Chamber's appreciation,
Thank you.
thank you so much for
So,
that. Really.
Chris, I need to ask, do I get to keep this or do I give it to the chancellor?
Well done. All right, now it's time to shift into some fun. And testify. That was very entertaining. Sorry. For the fun festival of today's program, please help me welcome Rob Peters. He's the author of the Small Business CEO Playbook and a dynamic speaker who helps leaders build relationships and strengthen their networks. Rob will lead us through a holiday-themed networking segment designed to spark fresh connections across the Metro South business community.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, well, unlike you, I actually enjoy the sound of my voice on a microphone. I'm going to ask everybody because I want to give you all a gift today. And that gift is the gift of a new connection of someone in this room. But before we get started, I'm going to ask you all to take out a business card, hand it to someone at your table, and then what they're going to do is just put it in front of them, and my team is going to pick them up. But I want to explain how this all works. Chris Cooney every year asks me to do this, and every year he says, you got to do the bows again. So Chris, I regift this particular activity in your name, and it's real simple. In the middle of your table, there are bows that you put on a Christmas present or a holiday present. I want you all to reach in the middle and pick a bow and do it now. And hold it up when you're done. Hold it up. Once you got one, hold it up. I will make sure everybody, and again, my team is going to come around and collect those business cards. So thank you for that. Now, here's your mission, and you've got a few minutes to do it. You are going to go find somebody who is not sitting at your table, who you've never met before, who has the same color bow that you have, and you're going to make a networking introduction. Who you are, what you do, okay? And the one thing you're going to do in the end of this is you're going to make a deal, which is why there are contracts on your table. If you reach in the middle, there are pieces of paper. Nope, the big ones. You are going to make a networking contract that within the next 7 days, you are going to do something with your new connection to keep the conversation going after today. So you're going to get started now. Take your ball, get up, find a new connection, and I'll call you back in about 7 minutes to wrap up.
Thank you, Felicia.
If I may, on your table, before you, if anyone leaves, there's scratch tickets that were donated by the Mental Health Chamber of Commerce, so please take them with you. Take it with you.
It's a winner. So by a show of hands, how many of you have made your new connection already? How many of you have not gotten up out of your seats yet? You. All right, I'm going to give you 3 more minutes to wrap up your conversation. Make sure you take a contract and make a deal to do one of those things to continue the conversation after we leave today. So 3 minutes. seats for the final part of our program today. So one more minute and make your way to your seats, please. Thanks. All right, folks, if I could ask you all to kindly take your seats so that we can wrap up this afternoon's meeting. We have this thing we do at Scouts where we do this. I don't know if that's going to work or not, but Chris, what do you think? Yeah? Folks, if we can have you take your seats, we just have a couple more things to do, and we're giving away free stuff. So right now, you do want to listen. If we could ask you all to take your seats, and would you please do me a favor? Give our chamber staff a big round of applause for putting together. They work really hard all year, but I think they deserve a little bit of recognition today because you know what? This stuff just doesn't come together on its own. Dan, they're all yours.
Oh, sorry. Thanks, Rob. I appreciate it. Wait a minute, Rob, thank you as a token of our appreciation as always.
I get a pen? I love the chamber pens.
Thank you. All right, now on to the bill price. And as I said before, there's, on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, we put scratch tickets in every seat. Please take your scratch ticket. It's complimentary. Door prize, number 1. We have an action report, business profile, and an autographed copy of the Small Business CEO's Playbook by Rob Peters. And the winner is Jessica Medina, Residence Inn. Door prize number 2. And also brought the book, Small Business CEO Leadership Guide. Will you autograph that also?
They're autographed.
Evan Kelly, BC 10. Door prize number 3, gift from the Fuller Craft Museum Holiday Marketplace. The winner is Laura King, Easter Seals. And door prize number 4, gift from the Fuller Craft Museum Holiday Marketplace. Andrew McGeising, Biz Checks. You all see Hannah McGuire at the check-in. We checked in to collect your awards. And in closing, before we wrap up, I just want to thank Chamber Ambassadors, the Brockton Community Access Channel, the Enterprise News, Cambridge Savings Bank, the Fuller Craft Museum, ATC Catering, Maria Telly, Dr. Mark Melnick, Steve Damon as Santa Claus, all our speakers and guests, and the Chamber team, which we can't do it without Hannah McGuire, Emma Panati, and of course Chris Cooney. Now the good news, Santa Claus, expertly portrayed by Steve Damon of Jack Palmer Real Estate, is ready for photos.
Whether you want a one-on-one, or you want to do a team photo, or just make sure your name is officially on the nice list, Santa's here for you. As we conclude, we wish you all a wonderful holiday season and a very happy new year. And remember, the Fuller Craft Museum and gift shop are open free of charge this afternoon for all attendees. Please explore, enjoy, and continue conversations. And once again, thank you all for coming and happy holidays.